Families can hinder the 12-step process for their loved ones in many ways. First, I want to start off by saying many family members will say to us that their loved one hates 12-step. And nobody hates 12-step. They hate what it represents. Because at its core, if you go and look through all of the counseling theories that clinicians use, all of it is rooted in 12-step facilitation. In other words, changing the behavior, changing the thoughts, changing the perception, changing the way people do things, reducing selfishness, reducing resentments. So when you look at 12-step facilitation, how you can hinder it is like this. If you think about any other medical issue in life, whether it be, chemo and radiation, if it were to be kidney dialysis, if it were to be insulin for a type 1 diabetic, whatever it may be, the person has to have that to sustain to live. Well, it's the same thing with recovery. A person who is in recovery must follow through with ongoing recovery efforts. And in the early stages, some families do get resentful that their loved one is so involved in 12-step facilitation. They're actually upset that they're going to meetings every day, that they have a sponsor, that they're telling their sponsor things they may have never told their spouse or other family members. They've formulated this new bond with this new group. And in the early stages of recovery, that is so important. There's several references, even in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, where families have become resentful at their loved ones because they've dove so far into this new spiritual way of living. And I didn't say religion, I said spiritual way of living. So the worst thing that a family wants to do is to let or to get involved with their loved one's recovery process. I'd rather you be resentful that they're doing too much 12-step facilitation than they're not going at all. Because a phone call that all they do is go to meetings is much easier for you and for them than saying they're not doing anything, because then you're calling me that they've relapsed. The best thing you could do is understand that this is their medicine and they need this to survive. And in the early stages of recovery, it is super important that you let them do what they're going to do. Now, keep in mind, you got to be careful. I'm going to put a little manipulative twist on this. There's a lot of times where people will say, hey, I'm going to a meeting or I'm going to meet with my sponsor, and they're actually going to do something they shouldn't do. So that's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, if you're seeing behavioral growth, you're seeing change, and they're doing a lot of meetings and they're not home when you want them, or they're putting that first, let them in the beginning. Don't tell them they don't need to go to a meeting. Don't tell them that isn't working. The most important thing is be grateful that they're actually in that recovery. Because I assure you that if they're not doing this, then you're watching an entirely different video and you're in a completely different set of circumstances.